Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave? Thank you, everybody. God bless America. God bless football.
When you're at a game, do you guys sing out loud at a game, or do you guys just mouth the words without actually saying anything? What's your strategy at an arena or game?
I normally don't do either.
Oh,
I stand respectfully but make no audible sound.
wow. You don't even move your lips.
Not really.
I think I sing at a low volume just to myself.
Yeah, just to like appear
Hummer.
patriotic.
Tony hums.
Hums.
Yeah.
Wow.
I know Jeremy breaks into it. I know you're not on mic. You're just not. Like, you go into it. You hit the notes. Yeah.
I scream red and night.
That's
what I do.
Okay. Yeah, that figures. No, I do judge like when you're watching the World Cup game and during the national anthem they pan the line of players and some of them are singing apparently at full volume, some of them are not. I am judgmental about that. When others don't sing, I'm like, why aren't you singing? And yet when I'm standing in a press box, I feel self-conscious.
I don't sing the World Cup anthem because it's a sped up version of it, and I always trip over myself. Because the players that sing the anthem, I think you only have 30 seconds for your anthem, so it's a much
that's
more
true.
sped up
I didn't
version.
realize that.
Yeah, if you listen to the U.S., do you remember trying to sing along and then not being able to
now
be
that you
on?
say it, it does seem fast.
What's the rush?
I think they have to fit it. Every anthem has to fit inside a specific window. So the U.S. is
There
a
needs to be
little
rules,
sped
Billy.
up.
There has to be rules.
I don't like that rule.
No, I don't either. It should be at least a minute.
I felt bad for Ronaldo when they because he's on the bench, but the camera guy is still like, we got to get him singing it, and like it can't feel great like coming to that point in your career where it's like I used to be, and now I'm on the bench and the camera's still in front of me.
But it's like an Alvin and the Chipmunks version of every anthem. Then
Oh yeah. Well, they don't. It's just the music.
I don't like it.
What are you disagreeing
So
with?
FIFA
Are you on?
here's the rule. FIFA limits every anthem to 90 seconds, and the U.S. anthem is just a beat longer than that, depending on the version that you hear. So the version that they play for the U.S. national anthem, the Star Spangled Banner, is just a little bit more sped up. So I find myself getting it wrong sometime, not being on beat. So I just keep my mouth shut during it and scream red and night.
FIFA seems like a shitty organization.
Yeah. Now that's the straw
Nail.
that broke the
Right on the head.
the camel's back right there.
Just in
Right.
general.
Rules.
Yeah. It seems like maybe not the
Well,
best.
FIFA, classic too many cooks. So I can understand why they're like, okay, you get 90 seconds. Figure it out.
Yeah, they're a corrupt organization, or at least they were. I guess they've cleaned up. a
No,
little
it's still
bit.
very much corrupt.
Is it? Okay, yeah. I mean, look where the World Cup
Infantino
is.
ran unopposed.
Yeah. Zagak.
Dad, who do you think should be in the final?
I think it would serve FIFA right if it was a Croatia-Morocco final. I think it would serve FIFA right for where they put the World Cup and all the years of greed and corruption. I think they deserve to have what would be to most of the world an unappealing World Cup, even though it might be a great match. But, you know, when you can have Argentina and what's his name?
But he's saying FIFA deserves. Tony just said back here, you got to have Messi in there, which I kind of agree with. But he's saying that FIFA deserves to have Croatia
Yes.
versus Morocco
Yeah.
just because it's the least
It would serve them right.
They're so corrupt that that's what they deserve.
They deserve it. It would serve them right. Now, the soccer fans globally deserve Argentina and France, but FIFA deserves a bad World Cup final, in my opinion.
I'm excited for today. Messi takes on Croatia. Croatia, the runners-up last World Cup. Messi in what everyone presumes and what he's said will be his final World Cup, having never won the thing. And the narrative around him is very clearly he has to win this to cement his legacy. Otherwise, it'll be brought up when you mention his name, never won a World Cup. It's a very tough opponent. They don't play the most appealing brand of soccer, despite the fact that they have a very talented midfield. Luka Modric won Best Player in the World a few years ago.
Right.
He's up there too, but he's still very skilled with the ball at his feet. I sincerely hope, even though I don't necessarily want to deal with Argentinians winning the World Cup, I do like the theater and the drama of having them there. I want them to make it to the final
and then lose
with all that pressure. With all that pressure, I just think it's going to be the greatest thing in sports. Having Messi get all the way to that final, having to deal with the weight of that shirt and the weight of that moment. He's been brilliant. This has been his best World Cup at this age. He's been phenomenal, and I just want to see him reach the levels necessary to do the one thing that you could hold against him.
So you think his legacy depends on winning this World Cup? Because
for me, no, not really, because I understand how difficult and how it's not necessarily random, the World Cup. That no one can ever say they've had a random champion.
One game samples, small, low
it's
scoring
tough,
games.
but it's all strategic. Look at how Croatia's made it to this semifinal. They made it to the final 4 years ago. They haven't beaten anybody in regulation time. All their games go to extra time or even pens. It's part of their strategy. We'll drag you in the deep water. We'll run for days. You won't tire us out. And we'll take our chances. We like our goalkeeper, and if it goes to pens can be random. But what people tend to forget with the World Cup, they view it in a myopic sense in that it's just the final that they see every summer this year, the winner. But it's a culmination of a 4-year tournament.
Right.
The actual tournament itself is called the World Cup Finals. The U.S. was a finalist because they went through the entire tournament for 3.5 years, and it just culminates with that group play and then the knockout style tournament. So it always provides a very worthy champion.
Yeah, and it's rigorous just to get there. To be one of the 32 is a terrific accomplishment. I know people who are passionately rooting for a country like Guatemala, which rarely gets there. And if they do, just qualifying for the World Cup is a national celebration.
Yeah, I've caught myself sometimes too, because there have been years. This year, I don't think it was necessarily a smashing success. It was just, okay, we achieved our goal. In that sense, it's successful. But if you're just paying attention to the tournament itself and not the qualifiers, you're probably saying at your TV, that was it? That was all that excitement? We got, 4 games?
This year was a break even, right, Mike? To your point, like this is exactly where, at the very least, we needed to get here.
But to me, it wasn't 4 games. To me, I was at a game in Cincinnati, which was massive to get to that point, and it was a 2-0 win over Mexico. In my mind, in this tournament, we've defeated Mexico 2-0. I try to take all those qualifying results, but I understand how those matches don't have the same kind of get up. With regards to the fan base, although you had really electric atmospheres in certain qualifiers like the Cincinnati and the one in Nashville against Canada. The one in Canada during the NFC Championship game was bonkers. I'd like to view the tournament in totality, but if you're just turning on the TV every 4 years, you're probably thinking, what's so big deal about that? There was 4 games and they were out, and we had all this excitement for that?
Well, even though the U.S. was eliminated by a great soccer power in Netherlands, I was disappointed. I think when you score 3 goals in 4 matches, you don't deserve to advance.
That to me was the biggest disappointment, that they didn't score. This was the most talented attack, I'd say, even though they don't have a classic number 9 out there. I really wish Ricardo Pepi made the roster, but Brendan Aronson, Christian Pulisic, Gio Reyna, individually at any given time, they would be the most dazzling, dynamic attacker the U.S. has at their disposal, and that includes teams with Clint Dempsey on it. These are really good players, and there's all sorts of drama surrounding Gio Reyna right now and the U.S. men's.
Is there any brownie points for like how in like the England game? There's so many chances. They could have had more goals. Like it's more like such a small margin of error. It's like you almost have to look at the chances as much as goals. Like they could have had way more goals. Like if it just worked out differently. Yeah, you know. So
I mentioned this on Morally Abhorrent, which will return today. I think Whitty will be doing it with me at the end of the Croatia-Argentina match. My favorite U.S. men's national team, when I think they were playing their best ball, either around Confederations Cup or mid to late 90s, depending on what you prefer in terms of their form. It's always that underdog mentality, that counterattacking defensive stout. We'll send 3 long balls. We'll capitalize on one of them. We'll beat you 1-0. We'll get pelted. Tim Howard will have to make 15 saves against Spain and Belgium to be in it. But that solid goalkeeping, great organized play in the back, counterattacking, use our great athleticism and speed, go out and get that goal. And you see teams like Morocco and Croatia, to a lesser degree because they do have a bit more class in the midfield, they can show you how you can hang in this sport by playing a game that maybe it's not so easy on the eyes, but it gets results. When Brazil was samba dancing on the sideline and their manager was samba dancing and they were just playing South Korea off the field, they looked unbeatable. Who can stop this? And the very next match is what I love about soccer is a defensive-minded, hard-nosed team that is really well-conditioned, will drag you into deep water, will dare you to beat them in pens. And Brazil go out like that when if you take the first couple of matches, it seems improbable. It's a wonderful game.
Yeah, and one of the things that scares me about soccer and delights me at the same time is just the tiny margin of error. You're talking about a sport that tends to be low scoring, a sport where the difference between a goal and not a goal is an inch off the crossbar or the post, a sport where very possibly the game is going to be decided by a controversial penalty kick decision. A sport that could very well end a game in penalty kicks, which is a crapshoot. I mean, you saw Kane turn into go from GOAT in capital letters to GOAT old school by missing a penalty kick
against his Tottenham Hotspur teammate.
Yeah,
who
that's
knows
right.
some of his tendencies, and Harry Kane just sails it over the bar.
I forgot about that when I was watching that they were teammates. Didn't even think about that.
Yeah, and you can't. I was saying, I tell everybody, you can't kick a penalty kick over the bar like it's a field goal attempt. You
were fine with it when he drilled it in the top left corner the first one.
You have to be on goal.
But I'm just saying, like he was trying to do that again.
But he missed badly. I would rather see it off the post or off the crossbar or right at the goalie and saved than I would kicking it over the crossbar.
You guys are giving away all of God Bless Football that came out today.
Like
you're giving away the goods. You're just redoing everything.
Well, no, we're burying the lead though of God Bless Football. If you want a preview, you're gonna get the reaction with Whitty and Mike after. If you want a preview for this semifinal, God Bless Football. Both semifinals.
Yeah, it's double duty.
It's the normal crew. Me, Stugotz, Dan, Greg, and Billy. But today,
yes.
My handyman Adonis joins us as well.
That's right.
We get
Adonis. Oh, do I love an Adonis.
Adonis is on, yeah. He's Greek.
Well, we were recording this yesterday during I was having some work done. Mm-hmm. So we document the whole experience. He comes over, we're trying to figure out how much he's going to charge me, if he's overcharging me.
Well, don't tell everyone what's happening.
I'm
Adonis is going to preview with us. And I will say this in Adonis's defense. Adonis somehow was able to get to Chris's house and do all of the handiwork that needed to be done while we recorded the episode. So he's very efficient. I can't speak for the quality of the work, but the speed was impeccable. Great speed.
If you're a handyman, you always leave yourself more work.
Yeah.
You tell your customer everything's fixed, but you always leave yourself a little more work, a reason for that person to call you back.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, not to give away too many spoilers, but Chris had 2 things on his list, and one of them there was, maybe a complication. He wasn't able to do it, so that could be the extra work, Stugotz. That maybe a day or 2 down the road he remembers. Oh, Chris, I remember this one thing that I could do differently. Let me head back over there and fix this for you.
Yeah,
classic Adonis.
Yeah, love that guy. Great man. Salt to the earth. I don't know what that means, but it felt appropriate.
Good analysis.
Yeah. Mike, are you going to be shocked if any team other than Argentina or France wins the World Cup?
I don't think at this point you're allowed to be surprised if if Croatia should do this, considering they were finalists and they just find a way. They're the Mick Cronins of the tournament, as you so eloquently put it.
Thank you.
I think it'd be cool because that's a first-time winner. It's really hard to watch a first-time winner. We saw Spain beat Netherlands in a finals matchup that is a historical outlier because they were both potentially first-time winners of the thing. But historically, if you've won it before, you'll win it again. And right now, there are only 2 nations out of the 4 that have won it prior to this tournament. The odds-on favorite is that we get an Argentina-France final, which is personally what I want to see because I want to see Messi have to go through the defending champions. I want to see 2 of the top 5 players in the world. I think Messi, with his play in this tournament and over the course of his club season at PSG, has got himself back into that discussion. He was not. I don't think he received a single vote for Ballon d'Or, which would have been really cool if Benzema was healthy because he's a reigning winner of that best player, air quotes, on the planet award.
Is that what Ballon d'Or, whatever it is?
Golden balloon.
Yeah.
Ball.
Okay.
So
It's a golden goal. Alone is a goal, isn't it?
I don't know.
It's a ball. I don't know what a ballon is, honestly.
The
in
award for
French.
the World Cup is a Golden Boot, right?
Well, that's for the most goals.
Oh.
Golden balls go to the best players overall. The Golden Boot goes to the top goal scorer.
Oh.
So
I think I made the wrong bet. I think I bet Lionel Messi to win the Golden Boot. That's not the one I wanted
well,
to.
I think
He's up there.
He's up there in terms of goals
He
being
is?
scored. He might actually
Okay.
be
Another
the-
goal, he might.
Yeah, but the
got
reason I
checked.
took Messi, Felica told us on God Bless Football that to take Messi because even if he gets to the championship game, they win that game, and he does nothing, he's going to win it. It's like a lifetime achievement award.
Well, he's won
but I
before.
think I bet the wrong thing now. So
Well, no, if he wins a tournament's Golden Ball, I think you're good with Golden Boot and Golden Ball. I have to see the stats, but he's up there.
It's translated to ball of gold. I feel like it should have a cooler name.
Well, I'm not going to westernize it, but I butcher the pronunciation of Ballon d'Or every time.
No. I mean, even
I
in
do
French,
too.
it'd have a cooler name.
Mbappe has 5 goals, Messi has 4, and Giroud has 4.
Okay, so
Me-
you're
2
still
of
alive
Messi's
for-
are penalties, though, and the other
Yeah.
guys have no penalties.
It
I feel like
counts.
that's a little.
PKs.
They
impressive.
count. They count.
But hopefully it comes down to the final where Mbappe and Messi are both chasing. I know you've claimed that you've gotten into this and you've put out stellar episodes of God Bless Football.
Thank you.
Some of the most popular episodes of podcasts Meadowlark has ever put out. And I'm sure you could pick Mbappe
Really?
out of a lineup. Yeah, the God Bless Football
Nice.
soccer episode was a monster hit. You're starting to get into this. You're starting to recognize faces. You know who Kylian Mbappe is, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I do. He's the best player on France.
Yes, he's-
Mike,
He's been-
Stugotz is still doing his thing, but I've sensed a difference in him this time around.
Why'd you just point at me? You
Because-
were pointing at me like you're interrogating, like you're suspicious of me.
I think
don't-
we've
as-
got enough people into
We
it that
always
he's.
After I've recorded a few
good
God Bless
point.
Footballs with the crew, I just see like when he's talking about this, he's not like faking it. Like I think he actually. I'm not saying he's a soccer guy now.
You're excited?
You're getting a bad read.
Billy
You're
knows me
excited
well.
because God Bless Football.
Billy knows me the best.
I don't know. My BS meter sometimes can be off, but I detect a hint of sarcasm when talking about the sport of soccer.
I'm into the gambling aspect of it. I've enjoyed
Yeah.
that. I've definitely enjoyed that, and I'm into the
Billy
stakes
doesn't know what I'm
aspect
talking
of
about
it.
with the sarcasm.
No, we got to meet, Adonis, who
No
we
idea.
wouldn't have probably spoken to before that. I was telling Stugotz, like guys, and I don't want to, let me see this calendar here before I give this story. Actually, you know what? I'm just going to say it. I don't care.
All right.
So there's a situation where a big name in the world of football, as I call it, was available to be a guest on a show. And
Is it Shep messing again?
no, it's Chicharito.
No, but Mike, I've been trying to get Shep. Trust me, I've been trying to get Shep.
Yeah.
He's tricky.
So we
That's
were sent in a veil for Chicharito, and then the people that were making him available sent a follow up like, hey guys, do you want this person or not? And I let it sit for like a day because I was like, let me follow proper protocol. And then I finally got back and I go, listen, if they don't want him on the main show, we will 100% take Chicharito on God Bless Football
Love that.
because I thought it'd be great.
It would be great.
Well-
Chicharito or Chicharito? No, how about that?
3 minutes after I sent that email saying we would love him on God Bless Football, Woody's like, we're taking him on the main show. So that's all the motivation that was needed to get him on the show. Because that would have been amazing.
The threat of us taking him?
Yeah. Could you imagine, man, if it would have been yesterday's episode, we would have Chicharito, we would have had Adonis, it would have been an all-star episode. It would have been the biggest episode ever, yeah.
Bigger than Oprah.
Who gets top billing there?
Adonis.
Yeah.
It's just because they do alphabetical order.
Right.
Yeah.
Mike, to answer your question, I'm not certain I'm into it or I'm into the stakes of it.
You're into gambling. You're a fiend.
Well, I'm also into stakes. Like, I can watch anything if stakes are attached to it. The problem is, I'm not going to sit down and watch a friendly in the middle of October against two countries I don't care about. Like,
understood, but the casual can understand the stakes surrounding Lionel Messi right now. I think that's a story that anybody can understand, the do it in the World Cup thing that you've espoused so much. But it's going to be pretty electrifying no matter who gets there, because it's a World Cup final. It's a culmination of 4 years. But I think everybody would prefer to see, unless you're Moroccan or Croatian, I think everybody would prefer to see France versus Argentina. This is an incredible story for Morocco. They haven't allowed a goal yet from run of play in this tournament. They've been spectacular, but can they really take down France? Albeit a super injured France, can they take down the defending champions?
That's a great story if Morocco makes the final. I was kidding earlier that FIFA deserves a Croatia-Morocco final for putting the World Cup in Qatar, but Morocco, the first African nation ever to get this far, they're a Muslim nation as well. It would just be historic if they, in a way that it wouldn't be with the other three teams. It would be historic.
And it's almost as if
Morocco
they're
made
the
it.
host nation now. They became the de facto host nation. Their games were always well attended by Moroccans, given the proximity to the tournament in Qatar. If they make it to a final, that's more of a mixed crowd, but they'll have a huge presence there. We've seen how their crowd has affected teams like Spain and Portugal so far. Those were basically road games for Portugal and Spain. So it's a nice little added dimension to their matches. But I'm really excited for the match today. These two teams matched up recently in a World Cup, and Argentina had disastrous goalkeeping. You can trust their goalkeeper now. Both teams, I kind of feel confident if it gets to pens, but then you add the extra pressure that Argentina has been surrounded by this entire tournament. Their knees may buckle a little bit if it gets to PKs. And Croatia, well, then their mentality is, well, we got them right where we want them. This is how we've been successful in this tournament for this generation. So if you're Argentina, you're certainly trying to get it done in the 90 minutes, because the deeper this thing goes, you got to like Croatia just as history as your governor, despite their legs having to be tired. How can they keep doing this?
But I think everyone's legs are tired now. I mean,
yeah, but Croatia,
doesn't it stand to reason? They're all in the semifinals. I mean,
yeah, it's
legs are tired.
It is a draining. It is
great analysis.
It is a mentally draining tournament. You're at a camp for 30 days. You're in your own little bubble. You're separated from loved ones. It's difficult.
If it was easy, we could all do it.
Precisely.
Yeah.
But to get this far, those teams got to be mentally exhausted. And when you add the physical stuff, that's why you see so many famous mistakes in the World Cup. It's just you're so drained. You're so much more prone to making an accident on the field.
Yeah, they should. I think when it gets late in the World Cup, they should have a week between games. I know it would elongate the whole
week between games.
I mean, they basically
soccer.
do.
I mean, the goalies don't move.
There's a game today, and the next one's on Sunday.
I care about me more than their legs. I don't want to wait.
Okay, all right. It would elongate the tournament, but I think it would make for a better competition.
Would Morocco be the most surprising winner of the World Cup?
Easily.
But easily, right?
Easily.
Are you saying ever or of the four?
Well, no, definitely of the four. That much I know.
Ever,
I'm saying
easily.
ever, all time.
Easily.
Yeah. They would be, right? I'm rooting for Morocco. I mean, I don't know. It's weird because usually I say I want big brands in my Final Four. Morocco is not a big soccer brand. But for some reason, I don't know, Greg, it's such an amazing story that this country could get to the semifinals. Why not root for them? I don't care about the other countries. I don't care about any of these players. I mean, it would be a great story for them to win.
You don't care about the World Cup.
That's a good point.
Well, Mike, I'm surprised you immediately said Morocco would be the biggest shock winner ever, because they're just outside the top 20 in the FIFA World Ranking. They're not an unknown.
I mean, they're below the U.S.
Oh,
They are. They're below the U.S.
The U.S. recently beat Morocco 3-0. I believe it spurred Morocco to fire their manager just before this tournament.
Right.
These two teams, this was a couple of months ago where the U.S. played Morocco off the pitch.
Mike, does it drive you crazy that Morocco has found its way here to the semifinal? Like, they're doing something you've wanted the United States to do forever, yet they pulled it off, and the United States can't get past the first round. I mean, it's got to bother you a little.
It doesn't necessarily. It's
It
interesting.
should, yeah.
Well, because it's specifically
bothers me.
Morocco.
Right.
The U.S. had a difficult path here, but so did Morocco. It's just you see what through transitive property, understanding that the U.S. was far superior than Morocco a couple of months ago. But that's what this tournament is. No one's been able to break Morocco down. They have really good players. Hakimi and Ziyech, these are really good all-world talents that play for big clubs, one for Chelsea, the other one for PSG. They're a super talented team. They don't have the wealth of household names at their disposal, but if you were looking for dark horses in this tournament, I know Samuel Eto'o had them in the final, they were a frisky little pick to certainly get out of the group. And then going up against a young Spanish team that is a little wet behind the ears still, and you take into account they've got this essentially home crowd at their disposal, you can understand the discrepancy between these teams isn't really that big, and the great neutralizer is these home crowds, in essence, that Morocco has had. I'm stunned that they made it to the semifinal. If you told me that from a treetop view entering the tournament, Morocco is going to get to the semifinal. But if you've watched them as play has progressed, I've bet on them throughout. I bet on them +1. I didn't have the full guts to say Morocco money line, but I don't think teams are going to play them off the pitch. So once this tournament deserved, you can throw out basically everything that you saw before. You can use it as a historical governor, but on form, Morocco's been a worthy semifinalist.
I agree, and there's no great disparity between opponents at this stage because you look at the four teams, everybody does something great. Everybody either defends great or has an elite goalkeeper or has an elite goal scorer. Somebody has something that got them here. And there's, Morocco is by far the underdog of the four, but it would not shock if they won. It would surprise, but it would not shock.
But looking it up, we've confirmed what Mike said. Like all the teams that have won countries that have won World Cups have been mainly powerhouses.
Yeah,
like Italy in 2006, Mike says might have been the longest shot.
In my lifetime,
Uruguay.
In my lifetime,
First
I'd say,
two for Uruguay, right?
Yeah. Well, that was before anybody could have legit odds on and
Right.
figure out who was great because you didn't have World Cups prior to figure out who was good. I don't really want to speak with conviction on World Cups that happened prior to my life. I imagine maybe one of those Argentinian teams was a bit of a surprise, but in my lifetime, Italy 2006, when you consider all the teams that were in that tournament, Brazil was overwhelming. Even in the final, they went up against France and then the famous Zidane headbutt. Italy was one of these teams that just kind of hung around, would play defensive-minded football, take you to pens, and then you were done, a lot like Croatia. So I'd say Italy 2006 was probably the most surprising. And while Germany was super talented, nobody thought that they could go through Brazil in Brazil, and they did so in stellar 7-1 fashion. So maybe that would be second most, but Morocco, galaxies away, historically and in my lifetime, of most shocking champion. Then Croatia would also be most shocking champion. In fact, everybody outside of Argentina would be the most shocking World Cup champion of my lifetime. And I know that's weird because France is in this and they're reigning champion. But when you consider the injuries, Conte, Pogba, Benzema,
That would make them the most shot, even with the best player and a team that won it a year ago. That
outside
seems
of
crazy.
that, outside of Mbappe, they're really beat up.
they're super beat up. They didn't want to have
Mash
to do
unit?
this with Giroud again.
Yeah.
They are a mash unit. And it's
Right.
not even just the starting 11. It's backups. They're the depth that they have is overwhelming. It's why I made the observation that I think France is the best men's footballing nation of my lifetime, having overtaken Brazil. It's stunning that they got here when you saw all the injuries and drama they had to deal with. But Griezmann is playing the best football I've ever seen him play. Mbappe is pound for pound the best player on the planet. He's electrifying to watch. And Giroud does all the hard-nosed veteran stuff, and he just finds a way to bag all these goals. Meanwhile, they're tough defensively, even though a lot of injuries along that back line. I would say France, despite being reigning champions, if they found a way to go through, would be the most surprising champion of my lifetime.
Would Morocco be, apart from the first World Cup, obviously in 1930, would Morocco be
Uruguay.
the first
That's right.
champion,
Yeah.
the first champion
No, my soccer.
to win in its first Final Four? Like, I wonder if that would be the case with Morocco.
I don't know that World Cup history of the semis all that well to answer that question.
I'll say yes.
Okay.
It's just historically,
Someone had to say it. I mean,
historically, big dogs eat in this tournament. You don't have the miraculous Morocco runs. There's a reason why they're the first African nation to reach the semis. It's usually people that have been at the big dance before.
Right.
I love my dad asking a question that he knows nobody's gonna. Who would know that off the top of their head?
I lead the league in asking questions I don't know the answer.
I wonder if Spain.
it's a gift.
question.
I wonder if Spain had made it to the semifinals prior to
Lead
the
the
2010s.
league.
Maybe Spain might be the answer to that. I don't
Okay.
know if Spain had made it to a semifinal prior to. I know that final between Netherlands and Spain, you were going to get something that's historically a real rarity, a first-time champion,
Right.
which made it a little bit more exciting. But Spain, I don't think. I have to check.
Let's get our crack research team on that.
They're on it, I'm sure.
Yeah, on crack or on the research?
On crack,
Okay,
yes.
Yeah.
Mike, you're gonna laugh. I watched a college soccer game last night.
Syracuse.
Syracuse won the national
National
championship.
title. It went to
Yeah.
PKs too.
Oh,
It
really?
did go to all games go to PKs. I mean, just give me PKs. You get me straight to PKs. We got soccer.
Just start there,
Yeah, just start. Yeah, right. They end up there anyway for the most part.
I would actually like that. You start with PKs, right? And then you know exactly what you need to do in the second
In
part
regulation
of it.
time?
Exactly right.
Wow. Are we changing the rules of soccer?
Maybe.
I like that.
I was close, but there was one time in 1950 that Spain did finish fourth. So that means they made it to a semifinal. But outside of that, they would have been a great answer. Did not remember 1950s World Cup.
Wow.
Greg Cote, as our Miami Dolphins expert, I need you to explain something to me.
Okay.
Now, yesterday we took a step back and we kept perspective.
Is Greg the Miami Dolphins expert? I'm not trying to.
It's either him or Billy.
Okay.
All right, so I'll ask all of you. You know what? I shouldn't have done that. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. Ask Greg.
No, it's fine. Give it to
We've
Greg.
still
Yeah.
taken a
He
step
wrote
back.
the book.
We've taken a step back. We're taking perspective on the season. And the one thing I'm confused about is the difference between the Dolphins' defense at home and on the road. I believe at home they're second in the league in points against.
Right.
And I believe they're the worst on the road.
And they have consistently been like that. And TV the other night showed a stat that they have the greatest home road defensive differential in the NFL since 1982. You know, so it's almost like historic that they're so good at home, averaging 14, 15 points allowed, and then on the road they average 32 points allowed. I don't know how you can explain it.
I would like to take a stab at it.
Yeah, please.
They've played bad offenses at home, and they've played decent offenses.
They played
on
the
road.
Bills at home.
That's a good guess, though. What Mike is saying is probably
They
a
played
good
the Bills.
guess.
They played the
They
Bills
played
at
Baltimore
home
on the road.
in 150 degrees.
Yeah.
But if you look at
Go through them right now. Just rattle home and away.
let's go. Let's work in reverse order. You've played the Chargers and Niners on the road. That's certainly an upgrade over your homestand over the Texans and Browns.
Fair.
Yes.
And
Yep.
then you played the Bears, who are all of a sudden clicking offensively, and the Lions that have turned into a pretty nice defense. You won both those games, but those were high-scoring affairs. Then you had a Sunday Night Football game against one of the more limited offenses in the
Steelers.
Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, you did a really good job against the Vikings, I thought, defensively, but they scored 24 points on you, and that's a better offense.
That was a home game, the Vikings?
That was a home game, and Miami went into that game. They might have won that game if they were fully healthy. We don't know. The road game, that Jets game got out of hand because of all the injuries, and they put up a 40-burger as that game went out. But you also played the Bengals on the road with a very good offense. You played
I
the
get your
Ravens
point.
on the road.
They played two good, what we would call, we're calling the Vikings good offense.
Yes.
They played two, what we would consider decent to good offenses at home, and they've played more than that on the road.
They've sat-patted at home because they've had teams like the Patriots weigh down those offensive numbers.
You know what? That's why we talked this out. I feel better now. We're good.
Talking
Because
it out,
honestly,
yeah.
the real reason I'm having this conversation is because with this loss last week, and we're not let's look realistically. We're not going to catch the Bills. We are looking at a road playoff game.
Why
Come on,
though, Chris?
I know you guys want to do the thing where we're just
No.
It's a division game, and the Bills haven't been so overwhelming. They're not the team that they were, I would say,
let's just talk
a month and a
realistic.
half ago.
No.
We could catch the Bills. But
Hold on a second. I'm with Mike on this. Why are you your team's played well this year? They're a good team.
Yeah.
Last 2 weeks have been ugly. But why are you doubting the Dolphins' chances to go to Buffalo and win on Saturday?
I would say it's more likely they're going to play a road playoff game. Yes, they could still catch the Bills. I'm not dismissing their chances.
They could beat the Bills. The Bills still play the Bengals. The Bills still play the Patriots.
I'm just saying, if they have to play a road playoff game, I'm worried because of these numbers that I've seen. I feel a little bit better, but chances are, if we go on the road, it's going to be against a good team. So.
I would be worried more about this weekend with the huge winter storm in the Northeast. Like, Buffalo's getting pounded by snow, and this Dolphin team has not been experienced in the outside elements outside of the heat, which is maybe another answer why early in the season, obviously the teams aren't great, but those teams have to come down and play in 179 degrees, and it's hot.
I saw a report that the Dolphins had heaters on the sidelines this week, and it was 55.
That's not good.
It's not looking good for Buffalo.
What's the status for Jeff Wilson entering this? Because if the elements are bad, you would trust your running backs, even though Singletary's had a nicer year for him. When you talk about Buffalo's running game, it's really Josh Allen. And he touches the ball every play. So you'd like to go in there with Jeff Wilson to see if he can counterpunch that. I know he got hurt the last game.
You know what scares me is I know I'm going to keep doing this thing where I'm talking about going on the road for a playoff game. I know they could catch the Bills and get a home playoff game. But going to Cincinnati in the first round terrifies me. That is terrifying.
I think you should be scared of going up against Tennessee.
But I'm just saying, of those two options, though, I'd rather go to Tennessee.
You'd rather go to Baltimore is where you'd
But
rather go.
I'm expecting Cincinnati to leapfrog Baltimore.
Baltimore's a very physical team, and I think the one concern that I had about this Dolphin team as the season played out, and I started having more faith the more that the running game got online, and they've had a bit of a hiccup here, is Dolphins very fast. People conflate speed with finesse. However, not the biggest players. I don't think it's a huge knock on the Miami Dolphins to call them more of a finesse team. Yeah. When you run up against physical teams like San Francisco, it hasn't gone well for them. And Tennessee's a very physical football team. Yeah. Their ball control, that's the recipe, especially if you have to go on a road. You should be scared of that scenario. It's why getting one of these 3 games on the road I thought was essential. And now y'all thought that they'd find a way to go 1-2 maybe entering this road trip, right? You've started out 0-2. You kind of have to get this one, especially with that Patriots game on Monday night. I want to scare you guys because you've kind of been in control all season long, but when I was growing up, the Dolphins always kind of fell apart in December.
Yes.
And this is looking like a little bit of a throwback.
Yeah, and the Chargers game is the one of those 3 that they had to win. And
not if they win this Sunday.
Only takes one prong.
Look, nobody was surprised they lost at San Francisco. Nobody's going to be surprised if they lose in Buffalo. I was very surprised they lost at the Chargers. And the Dolphins at 8-5 are where they should be because they're a flawed team. They're not a superpower. They're not a top-tier team in this league.
Greg.
I could list 5 things off the top of my head that they don't do particularly well.
I would like to hear those 5 things. The 5 things the Dolphins don't do particularly well.
Protect the pass.
Run the ball.
Yeah.
They don't run the ball. And when McDaniel came over, that was supposed to be his forte.
You're right.
Okay, and I think Mostert, obviously, when healthy, he's faster than hell. He's should be pretty good. Jeff Wilson, I thought, was a nice trade, but they just, on balance, they do not run the ball well. They don't create takeaways. They don't create defensive turnovers like they did last year at all.
The secondary is concerning. I appreciate the level-headed Dolphin fan, but it was really disconcerting entering that game because what Miami does well, Los Angeles does not defend well against.
That was like Collinsworth said. That was a weird game.
They don't.
The Chargers
throwing James out.
The Chargers just decided to play defense for like the first time all season.
And Bosa out,
Yeah.
dude. With all the injuries that they had, that's a bad defense. It's a secondary that you can throw on. It plays well to what you do well, and you did not perform well. It's concerning. I don't know if it's adjustments or.
Well, Mike, say what you want to say. You're concerned about Tua? Is that what you're?
No. I'm not going to do that. I love him like a son, and I'm going to afford him the ability to have 2 bad games. I think he's had a very stellar season, but I thought Chris has probably been a little too chill because I'd be really worried about that Chargers result. And I'd be really worried about playing a really physical team come January when the weather's worse. And you're going to get in a situation where a team's going to look at your offense and not want to have them on the field, and Mother Nature's going to be helping them do that.
They're not a team that is going to run the ball 30 times and control the clock and take all that pressure off Tua.
But that's what their identity wants to be. That's what Mike McDaniel wants to be.
Well,
and when you beat the Browns, you saw seeds of you guys turning into that team.
Mike, I think the other thing, too, is when you have Tyreek Hill on your team, he's such a gravitational pull to the offensive identity that you want to have. It's hard to be a running team, run-first team, power or gap scheme running team when you have him. You need to utilize him so much.
Mike, you're saying that based off of Kyle Shanahan, right? That's what his offense was. You're expecting McDaniel to... I think McDaniel might have a little more passing game than Shanahan. Like, I know he's coming from that system, but I think his version of that offense is...
Let's be
a run
careful.
game
Kyle
guy.
Shanahan and Matt Ryan had a very nice passing offense, but I would say, ideally, those teams have an identity dating back to Mike Shanahan. They had really good passing teams, but they want to control the ball and have a good run game. And Mike McDaniel in his post-game press conferences and all the press conferences that Greg has gone to knows that he needs to get this running game online. I think the encouraging thing is that you guys found ways to win big-time games against good opponents without doing what Mike McDaniel essentially wants to do with this football.
Right. I get that. Look, when you have Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, I get that your identity is going to be a passing offense. Tyreek Hill has been just beyond great. He's the player of the year for Miami, in my opinion. But there are times when you have to run the ball, and one of those times is in the snow in Buffalo. And if you can't, if you have to throw the ball in that weather at Buffalo, that's not a recipe to win. And you have to, now is the time of year, weather-wise and otherwise, where you have to be able to run the ball if you need to. And I'm not sure the Dolphins can do that.
I'm excited to see McDaniel adjust to the adjustments. Like we talked about yesterday, I think that the league is
done it yet,
the
though.
game plan is kind of, this is what the Dolphins are going to do. They've been beating you up. And last 2 weeks, the league has been like, all right, let's see what they do if we do this. And it hasn't worked for the Dolphins. I know with the snow in Buffalo, it kind of ruffles things up. I don't know how they're gonna game plan there, but I'm excited to see McDaniel's offense in the Let me see what you got, McDaniel. Let's go.
The weird thing that has happened, at least from my vantage point over the last couple of weeks, is what's happened to Jalen Waddle. Like, he's been absent.
Yeah.
He's been hurt.
Yeah, he got hurt.
I know, and now Tyreek Hill's a little bit banged up too. So,
It was kind of funny to watch Tyreek Hill on that long touchdown pass. As he's getting into the end zone, you see him like hopping on one foot. So it's like, wow, he's playing through something right here.
Yeah.
And it's like, he better get to the sideline quick. And then he realizes, we planned for a touchdown celebration. And then he goes over to the middle of the end zone.
That's the motorbike.
Does like the motorbike.
The
and
injury
starts
but the injury didn't hamper the celebration.
That's what I mean. That's
Right.
what I was like. He's like, my ankle hurts right now as I just hopped into the end zone. But we worked on this thing. I got to go do the celebration.
Priorities, Chris.
He also ran by the corner for 65 yards, and it was just not even close. It didn't even look like he was hurt.
Do you think that Tyreek, it actually might be a heady play for the scouting report to be out there? He's got a hurt ankle right now. Because then the corners are like, he's got a hurt ankle. And then he just doesn't really and jets past you.
He's he would be number one on your list of guys you want to come out of a fumble pile with the ball.
Oh, my
right?
God.
Yes.
Yeah.
You watch how he pulled away. Everybody had like a 10-yard start on him.
Yeah.
Didn't matter.
Dude, his biceps.
And he had to turn a corner.
He's got DK Metcalf biceps.
Yeah, he's got
Like, you think of DK as like this, like even though Tyreek is small, when you see him on the ground, like
he's one of the more shredded
His
dudes.
arms are bulging out of that.
He's
jersey.
got one of the more fascinating physiques. Because on top of all that muscle, he's also the fastest player on the field.
Billy, it seems like a bunch of people starting to doubt the Dolphins
Yeah, I don't
just
like
a
it.
little
I don't
bit,
like it.
including Greg Cote, who selected them to go to the Super Bowl along with us before the
How
season
can you
started.
not
I'm taking
have
note.
these thoughts when they've lost 2 in a row? Like, we're just being
It's
humans.
just 2 games.
We're just watching them play good teams.
We're just being humans.
I mean, it's just like, I don't know. I want to be like you guys, and no matter what, just think
positive.
they're going to the Super Bowl.
You
But
can be positive. What are you afraid of? What's your big fear?
Snow.
a lot.
Did he
The way
enjoy
he's doing the
himself?
whale. Yeah, he did enjoy himself.
He's a good dude.
Surprised by his scruffy look.
So was I.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
he's very cleaned up.
He was taken aback by the reaction to his hat.
Was he?
Yeah.
What was he expecting?
I was taken aback by his hat.
Me too. I got to be honest.
Oh, see, I'm gonna defend my guy here. I thought he looked like Miami. He looked like a guy trying to look like Miami.
That's it. That's why I was taken aback by
Is that what it was? He was trying to look Miami?
I think he was more just trying to have like
Right out of
you know,
Central
No,
Casting.
he was going with a festive look.
He's the
listen-
kind of guy that he dresses like the place that he's visiting.
If you listen to Cinephile, he kind of
You know that guy,
kind of
Greg?
hinted at that he
Like
wanted
right out of
to.
Central Casting.
Greg,
Put your headphones on, please, Greg.
seriously.
If other people are talking, you'll talk over them.
He
That's
was
how it
typing.
works.
He was doing something. I mean,
So
cut him some
annoying, Greg
slack.
Cote.
Just a
It's all right.
situational awareness.
It's a loose room today.
I didn't know it
It's
started.
okay. Yeah, it's fine.
sorry.
Mike, you were saying, I'm sorry.
If you listen to Cinephile, which is produced by Chris Cote and it's available on the LeBatard and Friends Network, kind of alluded to that. No, this was a thing. This was a plan. This was premeditated. The fedora, the dress shirt, the scruffy beard. He wanted to assimilate. He wanted to feel the Miami vibes.
I liked it. He's very nice. Very nice, man.
Cinephile is fun this week. We full recap of Moss. We do The Whale, the Brendan Fraser movie. So you got to check it out.
No one's saying he's not nice. There's no debating whether or not Adnan Virk is nice. He's one of the nicest people I've ever met. I didn't recognize him in the hat. And I do find it a little weird that you would dress like the place you're visiting. To me, I always find that to be a weird thing.
The best part was I got a call from Lewis at like 1 a.m. on Saturday night, and he's like, he had just left, and he's like, hey,
What?
he had just left. He's in his car leaving. He's like, hey, you got to call Adnan, man. He's walking down the street. I don't think he knows where he is. I was like, I call Adnan. I'm
At
like,
1 a.m.?
Yeah, because Adnan's a New Yorker, so he's from New Jersey, but he's like up in that area.
Right.
So he thinks
Everything's walking
40
distance.
minutes. He's like, 40-minute walk. I could do that. It's like 1 a.m. through
In this
Wynwood.
town?
And I
dangerous
call him.
game.
I'm like, you okay, man? Like, get in an Uber.
It's a crapshoot.
You call him Brendan Fraser, as everybody else
What is
says.
it?
But I learned through an interview with Adam Sandler that everybody's been mispronouncing Brendan Fraser's name forever. It's Brendan Fraser, like razor.
Get out of here.
He lamented this to Adam Sandler. They were in Airheads together. He's like, no one's ever got my name right. It's supposed to be like razor. If you look at it, people pronounce it like the sitcom, but it's spelled Fraser. And it's pronounced Fraser, but we've just been mispronouncing it.
It shouldn't be.
Airheads brings me back, man.
I'm with
It's a
Greg.
good
Wait,
movie.
did Adnan get home?
Time
Yes,
out.
he's back in New Jersey.
He's fine? Are we sure?
Well, he was just
1000%.
wandering the streets.
He did listen to my advice. Like I called him and he was just like, "Hey man, what's up? Yep, just walking." He's like, "You're right. I probably should have got an Uber. All right, I'll get one."
Really?
Did he make that walk in flip-flops?
Very nice of
no,
you.
it was after the event. I believe he had dress shoes on.
No, because when he tried to walk the causeway,
That's another thing he told me in the episode.
Because Bimmel wasn't paying for his Uber,
Yeah, and-
according to Adnan. So he decided, it's just 2 miles away. I'll make this walk. But it was a walk from Brickell.
He's staying in Brickell. He tried to walk to he's like, I want to go to South Beach. He's like, 20-minute Uber? I can walk that. And it's
No.
like, and I was like, and then the concierge was like, it's an hour 40 walk. He's like, I'll still try.
So he did try. He was covered in sweat. But then he
Wait,
eventually
he did it?
No, he eventually takes the Uber after he realizes
Chris called him.
after
Right.
after
No, this is
another time.
after
no,
some
no, sorry.
replenishing electrolytes at a CVS,
Yes.
he decided to
Look at Mike listening to Cinephile.
So
Appreciate that.
But the part that I wanted you to follow up on Cinephile was he says, then I got the Uber and I went to Ocean Drive and I took my flip-flops off and I went into the water.
Put his toes in the water. Yeah.
Did he try to make that walk on the causeway with flip-flops?
Yeah, he did. I know.
He
You're
tried
right.
to walk.
It's impossible. no one's ever done
Tried
it.
to
No,
walk. He
his-
tried to walk 3.5 miles in flip-flops.
You guys know this area better than me. He said he went down Biscayne and like made a right at like 58th or something.
He has
That's-
no idea.
That was his attempt. I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't-
58th?
or
What is the
38th
matter with
or
him?
something. I don't know.
Did he try to take the 195?
They were like, they told him walk down Biscayne and then make a right at something, and it was just like he said he walked for 45 minutes.
Hold on. Where was he staying?
Like in Brickell.
Okay, so he had to walk up. Okay, the Biscayne
He said he walked
Boulevard
for 45 minutes.
up.
Yeah,
All
and then
of
he
this
had
is
to
in
walk over.
flip-flops.
So he missed a 395 and he was trying to take.
Venetian.
No, I think he went further. He probably took the 195.
Yeah, I think it was towards the 195.
And the 195 is really
but before
tight.
he got there, he was just like, "I'm sweating. This is ridiculous." He hopped. I think he said, "What rest?" At a Denny's. Where's there a Denny's? He hopped in
Oh,
an
I
Uber
love
at
a good Denny's.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
on Biscayne.
The Grand Slam.
that's right where the 195 is.
Yeah. So he got
Dude, yeah,
there and he
that's
was like,
that Wynwood exit.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, why do you
That
walk
is
that
such
far?
a far walk.
Well, here's my follow up then. So
"Should I call him?"
Time out, Bill. You have a follow up?
Yeah.
Okay.
So he essentially made the walk to where we were on Saturday, and realized it was a horrible experience, and then decided to make that walk again in the middle of the night.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
In flip-flop.
I'm gonna call him.
No, the second in the middle of the night.
I'm gonna
wasn't
call him.
flip-flops. But he was walking through
Gonna
that
do it on
area.
air, or just-
But if you're walking down the 195 to get to the beach is such a far way to go because you have to go to like A1A, it splits off, and then you have to like keep
He
walking.
didn't even take the efficient route.
No, the official
If he-
route take MacArthur.
If he took the efficient route, he might have been able to do it. But
Is he
again,
on a budget? He can't afford Uber? I mean,
this
what's going on?
that whole thing was very bizarre to me.
It's happening.
Just expense it like I did.
ridiculous.
I love Adnan, though. By the way, I am with Greg Cote on this. If you want me to call you, what is it, Mike? Brendan Fraser?
Well, that's what you've been calling him. That's what everybody's been calling
It's
him.
Fraser.
Yeah, it's Fraser.
Spell it with a Z if you want me to call you Fraser. I have a
No,
friend,
you're
Tom
getting it
Fraser.
wrong.
I call him Tom Fraser.
No,
I mean,
what?
he spells
No,
it with an S.
He pronounces it Fraser. You're
Right.
confusing
Go
yourself. and the entire
over that
audience.
again if you can.
If your last name, if you spell Fraser with a Z, then I call you Fraser. If you spell it with an S, I call you Fraser.
Right.
Is that fair?
Well,
It makes sense.
he spells it with an S, and he doesn't even have an I. It's right there for you.
I don't think the ZS has anything to do with it. I think there'd have to be an IE.
Yeah,
for
yeah,
it
the
to be
I has to be in
Fraser. Yeah.
And the sitcom
I
has
before E.
yes in it too.
Except after C.
I think there's a good chance
Frazier,
Brendan's been mispronouncing his own name.
No,
Yeah,
he
his
has
entire
it.
life.
He has.
I think he has.
Put it on the poll.
Yeah, I believe he has.
Has Brendan
transparency.
Fraser been mispronouncing his name
He has.
his entire life?
I mean, Greg goes by Greg Cote, and it's Cote.
Right.
So, pot calling the kettle.
I mean, it could be anything. Just don't call me late for dinner. Am I right?
So you're allowed to pronounce it how you
right.
want.
All right, Roy.
That's right.
Okay.
Well, it seems like he doesn't want to pronounce it that way.
It's a great old man joke right
It
there.
really is.
Walked right into that.
You should see the other guy. It's like what Riley said.
Yes.
Or no, Saban said after he was cut during a college football game. I love old man jokes. Because we're old men.
Exactly.
I wanted to listen
Yep.
to everybody's Moss recaps to see how they experience it, because Moss, for us that are taking part and we're shaking so many hands, it kind of feels like a wedding. It's all one big
Too
flash.
fast, man.
It all
It
moves
goes too
fast
fast.
because
Needs to slow down.
Here,
Yeah.
let me look into this camera. There's a flashlight. It's a little surreal when you experience it. So I wanted to hear people's takeaways that experienced it in their ways, because I didn't actually get an opportunity to spoke. I shared a couple moments with Greg that I'm quite fond of, but I wanted to listen to the Greg Cote show with Greg Cote to get the perspective on this. I really enjoyed Yeti's interviews.
Yeah, I know.
God.
It's
That
terrible
close,
sound.
I almost cut him. I was like, these are almost like these are on the line of unlistenable.
Morgan from Australia.
Charlie Brown's teacher.
Look at this toe now. Oh my God, the toe. Toe from a letter to the Ephesians.
There's no way you listen to that. Mike, I know you. Mike, there's no way you enjoyed that.
I cut a
you're
couple of them.
angry.
Poor
too.
Yeti.
Those were the listenable ones.
Yeah.
Who'd you cut?
A couple, like, I don't know, just a few other people that Yeti talked to. It was just like he sends me them. He's like, the audio not great. I'm like, it's probably loud. We'll
No,
see.
it's terrible. It was awful. Pablo Torre, you couldn't even understand. That's crazy.
I am having a good time.
I made a cardinal mistake. Who were the Lauer After Hour guys? I gave them my phone number. I mean,
Oh my God.
I also
Am
gave
I
out my
drunk?
number a couple times. Yeah,
Really?
yeah.
It's a dangerous game. I've never done it before. I did it twice. Not once, but twice. Someone else wants to publish my book.
Like they didn't already have your number and your address.
Well, I just moved, so.
Yeah, I know you just moved. Hey, who moves and doesn't say anything about it? Because my holiday card to you bounced back.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because that's
should
how
be
I learned.
forwarded.
That's how I learned you moved. I'm like, when did he move?
Last
I know.
week.
I just
Like
found
2
out
houses
yesterday.
down.
Yeah.
I found out
How
yesterday.
many times are you gonna move within the same neighborhood?
Listen, if it makes you feel better, I'm a little bit closer to the studios. I mean,
They're
I'm
2 homes closer.
I'm on the front
wow.
end
You
of my
moved
development.
What hole are you on now?
The first, like I'm right there.
Nice.
And I could feel it on the drive in. It only took me 2.5 hours this morning.
First hole's a dangerous game because everyone's warming up still. Breakfast balls.
I know. It's actually like slightly off the driving range leading up to the first hole.
Okay.
Which is even more of a dangerous game because everyone's on the range. You could easily hit my house from the driving range, and people have already.
Work for Adonis.
I need Adonis. I do. I need a
We all
handy
do.
man.
Yeah.
We all need an Adonis.
Oh, yeah. No,
Right.
I use them a lot. 3 or 4 times a year, for sure.
Do you really?
Yeah.
3 or 4 times a year?
Is
I
that a
would say
lot?
so, yeah.
Is that a lot?
That doesn't feel like a lot.
Because
Quarterly, yeah.
because I do a lot of work around the house myself, but
How much is it that he has to fix of what you did?
well, that's a fact. I mean, that's
That's a
you're
married.
le-
That's
you're
a
legit
married
there.
man right there. Saying 3 or 4 times is a lot per year.
I mean, if you win the lotto 3 or 4 times a year, that's a lot.
I just called him to replace my garbage disposal. He happened to be out of state, so he couldn't do it. So I had to call a professional plumbing company I use, and they charged me an exorbitant amount.
An arm and a leg.
And a foot
Attaboy.
as well, and a toenail.
Right.
But it had to be $500 for a garbage disposal, including the installation.
Huh. And how much of Adonis was around?
I think it would have been half of that. Would have
Really?
been half of that, yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, he's good.
Once again, if you want to hear from Adonis, check out God Bless Football.
Yeah, and if you want to hear that muffled interviews that Mike was making fun of, check out the Greg Cote Show podcast.
It's a great episode.
So if you've been listening and following the news, you know what a difficult week it's been for us here on this show and within Metal Arc as we lost our colleague Grant Wall a couple of days ago, tragically passing away of a heart attack over there. And over the weekend, as we were all consumed with that and grieving the loss of Grant, there was a news blurb that Mike Leach had a serious medical event and had been transported to a trauma center in Mississippi. And every story thereafter over the next few days just got worse and worse. And you were realizing, having to come to grips with the fact that we were going to lose Mike Leach. Now, Mike Leach for our show was a huge friend of our show. Had joined us several dozen times over his coaching career. We had a direct line to him. There was even a stretch there where we had him on every day.
I would say that was towards the front end of the pandemic where Mike Leach was down in the Keys and he was joining us on almost a daily basis.
Yeah, I remember personally a little anecdote because I whenever I was guest booking the show, I always had a very friendly relationship with Mike Leach, so much so that we would reach out to each other when he took that break in between Texas Tech and Washington State University. And he would reside in the Florida Keys when he wasn't coaching, and we would talk about the Florida Keys, and he'd give me like tips on bars. I always appreciated him. He's one of the great characters in sports. You look back in old videos and bloopers, and these coaches had such great personalities, and over time that's gotten away, but he was always a renegade and did things his own way and always provided exceptional quotes.
He was always a guy that Dan wanted UM to hire as their head coach.
Famously,
he always wanted Mike Leach.
Famously, Donald Trump, before he became a politician, wrote Donna Shalala that the University of Miami should have hired Mike Leach, and it was a big mistake. And quite honestly, it's one of those times Donald Trump was very right about it because Mike Leach was a stellar coach, an innovative offensive mind. His track record in college offenses speak to themselves. He had one of the great runs with Texas Tech. They were the number one team in the country after winning a primetime game over in-state rival Texas. It was a big Michael Crabtree moment. He was an innovator, and he was beloved because of his way of doing things. He was an oddball. He was quirky. He was a great quote, and the fact that he's not going to be joining this show ever again or coaching on those sidelines or being around is really sad because we all have laughed along with Mike Leach at times, and he provided a lot of great content over the years for our show.
He just got it, man. Like, he got what we're doing, and like, this is not that serious. Let's have fun.
Oh, he enjoyed coming on this show.
No,
because
not
of
even
that.
just with us though. Any interview you see with him,
Right.
like if you ask him a random question, he'll answer it because he got it. That
Yes,
we're
unafraid.
just, like
yeah.
it's just like it's not that serious. Let's have a good time. Like it's just so sad.
It is sad. He was very good to this show. He was very good to us, and he he kind of got the spirit of our show. You when Chris says he got it in just about any interview setting and any environment. But when he came on our show, he was on enough where he kind of knew what we wanted to do, what we were going for, and I don't want to say played along because
he did.
We'd ask him about aliens.
Yeah.
He'd give us a great answer.
Mike Leach totally got it. I think some people from the outside might have thought, "Who is this weirdo?" And yeah, he's strange, but
he's in on the joke.
But
he
he's
knows
in on
exactly what he was doing.
He knew exactly what he was doing by being such a quirky oddball, and he knew him rambling would be funny, and he was a really funny guy. And sorely missed by this show. It's a huge loss in college football, and it's a huge bummer. They don't really make them like Mike Leach, and he was such a gifted coach that he survived his personality. He had a certain way of doing things that wasn't for the masses, and yet he got results. Not this extraordinary recruiter, and he had incredible results with these teams because of his brilliance. He innovated offensive football in the late 90s, early 2000s. A lot of quarterbacks were taken high before they knew, oh, this guy just knows what he's doing. He can do that with anybody, and he did. And he was incredibly successful, and it's a damn shame about it, and prayers go out to his family. And obviously it's been a tough season in the SEC and college football altogether. There's tragedies all over the place. Really tough blow for all those kids that he coached along the way, because you could see why players loved him. He was very married to a certain way, and sometimes that got him in trouble. But in terms of our personal experience, I have nothing but the best things to say about every interaction that I had with Mike Leach, and I'm very sad to see him go.
You had text exchanges with Mike when he was in between coaching jobs?
I had text exchanges quite
Insanely
often.
jealous of that.
No, Mike was great. Go back and even early days of Twitter when he was very active on that. He's a good guy, very friendly. Why would Mike Leach take time out of his day to give you a tip on what dive bar to go to in Key West, what that the locals go to? But he was just that kind of dude. To me, just from personal experience, I had a very friendly relationship with the man. I'm sad to see him go.
Who are you going to ask now if you need a dive bar? Greg? I mean, Greg seems like...
I got a couple.
Well, thanks to Mike Leach. I got a few places there, yeah, okay. and frequenting there. You know, his style definitely, you could see why he gravitated to the Conch Republic down there, because that's where people like him go to thrive and flourish, and he did. He would make his way down there a lot. He was a nomad. He was a pirate. He was obsessed with pirates, and he would give history lessons on pirates, and he just wanted to be around that scene. A lot like Pat Croce, who also kind of made his way down there.
Yeah. Leach was super smart. I think people, you hear him in interview settings and post-game press conferences, and maybe you don't realize, for whatever the reasons are, just how intelligent that guy was. And he will be missed, Mike. You're right, because he was great to this show for many, many years. So our thoughts and prayers to Mike Leach, the family, and may he rest in peace. I want your dive bars.
Yeah.
You are a dive bar specialist.
Yeah, I got a few.
I don't know how long that was.
Let's do 5 more minutes here talking about Dan, because Dan's going to pop up here with Richard Sherman, just on the front end of that Richard Sherman thing.
Okay. Should we talk about...
I'll talk about the microphone.
Okay, good.
All right.
Yeah, good.
All right. 3, 2, 1. So by now, you probably figured out that Dan is not going to be here today, although he will contribute to this episode. We had a moment to catch up with Richard Sherman yesterday after the show, and we're going to put that in today's show. You know that's someone that Dan has wanted to chat with for quite a while, so that's coming your way here in moments. there was really bad traffic today on I-95, so you guys missed the national anthem, which I'm not too happy about. Greg Cote started things off as he's still serving his grid of death punishment. And honestly, Greg, you should start every Greg Cote Tuesday with the national anthem. It was a stirring rendition today.
I'm proud to do it. I'm a patriot, and I enjoy the song. I'm happy to do it.
How'd you get here on time? Like, we we have the same route pretty much.
I sent a text to the show at about 8:30 saying that I'm definitely going to be late. It's I thought one of the lanes on the express lane was blocked. It was a nightmare, but then all of a sudden it cleared up. I don't know how your experience was, but
no, it cleared up right towards the end of the express lane on 95.
Yeah,
it just cleared up.
Well, we
what is
saw.
The audience
I
for
love
this?
an opening of the
Line of
seas.
questioning right now.
Yeah, I'm just wondering. I missed the national anthem. I'm upset about
Yeah,
it.
just a quick.
Right.
Should we all say what time we left our house this morning?
I mean, listen. I left at 4:30.
Hold on, guys.
Somehow my dad texted at 8:30 and got here at 8:15.
Yeah, quick correction. Yeah, he texted like around 7:30.
7:30,
No,
you're right.
he did not get here at 8:15. Your dad was here at 7:50.
Thank you.
If even that, he was here earlier than he's been here in a really long time.
Well, that explains it. That's why I was asking.
Right.
I missed the anthem, and I'm upset about
No,
it.
because I was pulling into the garage and I was being followed by a car, and I was playing a game called Guess Who's Going to Come Out of the Car Behind Me. Because when it's pretty much just us that
Fun
are
game.
getting out of the
that
car.
is a fun game. I do that.
My money was on Gino Fuentes. I thought that's who it was going to be when I parked. And I even left a spot, like, I went further down and left an open spot so that Gino could take that spot.
Nice of you.
And then I backed in, and this person passed that spot and then parked. And then I saw an arm and a leg come out, and I was excited. I was going to say, oh, my God, who's it going to be? Who's it going to be?
I almost took Dan's spot.
I was going to text someone to take Dan's spot, but
Dangerous game, man.
they were pressure cleaning the thing, which, by the way, that caused like a whole stir last week. Is that I guess people in other parts of the country say pressure washing or call it pressure washer.
Yeah.
But we all refer to it as pressure cleaning. But that's what I've always heard growing up in my life down here.
Who was upset about that?
We got lots of tweets and stuff about it. Like people thought it was really weird that we kept calling it a pressure cleaner instead of a pressure washer. Like
Big controversy.
they were very upset, like very passionate. It was
Get over
like,
it, tweeter.
Well, calm down. It's okay. So anyways, so I see the hand and the foot come out, and who is it? Not Gino Fuentes. It was Mike Fuentes. But I got a good read that it was a
The
Fuentes
lesser
brother.
Fuentes.
Yeah, but close.
I mean, my God, what the hell is the
did
matter
you
with
say
you?
that out loud?
You asshole.
No, he said Mike Fuentes was the lesser Fuentes. He's a Gino guy. Yeah. So anyways, I get to the elevator, and lo and behold,
Sorry, Mike.
who do I
Jesus
see
Christ.
drive by? Greg Cote. I was shocked. I was like, wow, I thought he was going to be late.
I know. I did too.
Yeah.
And then we had a little conversation where we said, well, Dan's out, and, Greg just got here. When do we think Stugotz is going to get here? And then the two of us kind of decided, well, he knows Dan's not coming. He's in absolutely no rush now. He's going to get here by no earlier than 8:30. There's no chance.
But is there anything better than a parting of the seas when you're in traffic? It is the best.
It is.
Well, Billy's prediction was right as Stugotz sauntered in here much later than we'd all hope. And
I missed the national anthem, but I got here. There was an open seat. Dan's seat was open, and I chose not to sit in it. And I think Mike is mad at me for it.
well, it's just very clearly, if Dan's out, you're the big kahuna. You go
Right.
in the big kahuna chair.
Yes.
I told
Yeah.
Greg, you move over to the Stugotz chair. His throat
Right.
actually held up, by the way. Kudos for surviving the chair, but also just for television shots, it's better. And because Dan's not there, we have 3 broadcast positions in that studio, one of which is just a microphone, and I don't have comms. I can usually, that's how I've been able to speak in people's headphones without the audience hearing me. And so if Dan is out, then I would love the luxury of being able to communicate off-air, backlining with the host of our show. Mm-hmm. And Stugotz decided that because Dan is out sick, he did not want to sit at Dan's broadcast position because he'd very clearly get whatever Dan has, because Stugotz is a picture of health, and he's always very cognizant of those
thank
things.
you. Yeah.
So he decides to sit down in Greg's position. Now, for me, as a producer for the day, this is the worst of the scenarios because Stugotz and I communicate all the time during this show, and he decided in his great situational awareness that was the right call. Yeah. Thankfully, you guys have moved back. You're very clearly socially distanced and avoiding Dan's broadcast position because you think you'll get sick if you sit there.
Yeah.
We're all going to get sick, right?
Yeah, it could happen.
I mean,
Like,
the timing is quite suspicious.
Well, no, hold on a second. Do you guys agree with Mike? Because there's no way. Dan's sick. I have no idea what he has. I'm not going to suggest that, I mean,
So being in the room is safe, but sitting in that chair would Like, does the
It's
mic
the
have cooties?
microphone.
What's happening?
Saturdays for
microphone,
sure
the
when he got
germs.
sick.
No,
and
stop
the
that.
rest of us will not.
Listen,
Stop that. That's not true.
Yesterday I called Moss the Deer District. I mean, you want me to sit in the chair after a guy calls in sick?
You know what the M in Moss stands for?
What's that, Chris?
Not masks. I know that was your joke.
I'm worried for Dan because Dan like powers through sickness all the time.
Yeah, he does.
He's always here where you're kind of like, Dan, you're gonna get us all
He
sick.
usually
Why are
comes
you
in
here?
and he's
Yeah.
like, I'll just be in this room, and then after the show, he'll walk in our room.
Yeah.
Do we believe he's sick though? Because I think he and Val are having brunch right now. I really do.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Says
What
the
an
guy that
accusation.
missed a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, but I'm old. I play the old card. You know, when I say I'm sick, nobody
We
doubts
believe it.
it. Yeah, exactly.
We're shocked when you're here.
Yeah, thank you.
Got it
Thank
back
you.
at my day today, or
Thank you.
It's an off week. It's a veterans rest
that's
day.
true.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
an off
Oh,
week
yeah,
for
yeah,
back
yeah.
my
well,
day.
you did have that extra work day of
Plus,
Saturday.
Dan's
this
not
week.
here.
Yeah.
That's right. But I am going to sing during the commercial break. I am going to sing the national anthem for Stugotz, just a cappella, just to you personally.
That's,
that's
very
nice.
kind of you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
In the meantime, audience, please enjoy this interview with Richard Sherman.
Quit sucking up to the guest. Allow me to suck up to the guest. I have been an admirer, sir, for a long time of your story, of your personality, of the way that you carry yourself. So thank you for making the time for us here. I've got a million questions.
Yeah, I love it.
The first thing I'd like to ask you before we get into some of the things that you'd like to promote here, what is the reason and the thing that the media gets most wrong about trying to have a cordial relationship with athletes that will allow them to be their true selves when answering questions?
Well, they're under the impression they know the guys, and I think that's the biggest difference. You know, you don't know the guys, and unless you try make a conscious effort to get to know them, you won't know them. So, so asking them personal questions or expecting depth or brevity from them is a long shot. I mean, there are media members that go over and beyond to get to know guys and try to get to have that relationship, but they don't. They're on a lot of them.
And as you were coming up, what were you expecting from how fame would behave with you in this realm that we're talking about, the media realm, and how you show yourself to the world? What could we have done better? Because it seems like you would be somebody that we should all be celebrating as opposed to trying to undercut at every turn.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I don't know because it wasn't expected. I don't think this, fame isn't expected. You work hard, you play hard, you do your best. But I think, there are certain guys that, they're 5-star athletes their whole lives. So, there's a certain degree of expectation of success. But also the media and the coverage and the landscape of the media has evolved throughout my career and my journey. Social media, the space came into effect kind of early on in my career, and it wasn't there before. So it's not even like you could project this. If I was in high school and somebody said, hey, when you get to the National Football League, there's going to be a platform where everybody in the world can connect and see exactly, you know what I mean? It'd be insanity. So I don't know if there was anything I could have done to prepare myself for it, or anybody could have done to prepare themselves for the evolution of media and social media. But I think everybody's done their best under the circumstances. I think there's been a lot of sensationalism, with the world of clicks and views and the monetization of that. So that's kind of changed the way, athletes have covered. And I think that's what's kind of burned a lot of athletes out on the space.
What would you identify as the most uncomfortable you've been in the public space as a person who's tough, who can handle criticism, who welcomes it sometimes because he knows he's smart enough to fight with people who don't have enough information and think they do? Like, what is something that you thought you could handle that was even more turbulent than you imagined it might be?
I don't know if I even, like I said, I don't know if I thought this far into it early on. So I guess the initial wave of fame and attention and praise and criticism all at the same time, was a bit much early in my career. But you kind of, you take it with everything else that's new. You take it the same way. You just try to do your best to act like you've been there before, to weather the storm, to step with your best foot. But it was a lot. It was a lot early on. You got people coming up to you all the time. You lose the ability to your ambiguity. You go into public, people know who you are. You can't just sit at a restaurant. You can't just go through the mall without a hoodie on and just think you're going to go shopping or just hang out with friends somewhere. And a lot of it is positive, but at times it's overwhelming. And for a kid that has never dealt with that, it was a lot. And on top of that, the social media space where anybody can reach you, anybody can leave you a comment, anybody can tweet at you. And a lot of people on those networks, on those social media sites aren't trying to be positive. They don't even have a profile picture. They're just, spewing hate and negativity. And when you're young, and that's my advice to a lot of young guys is you kind of read everything. You read it all, and you think, oh man, it's not going to affect me. But then it creeps into the back of your mind, and things like that. And so you got to be careful. You got to be careful what you feed and what your eyes see and what you allow yourself to take in, especially when it comes to social media.
I'm surprised to hear you admit that some of it was bravado, that you were faking it. I see you as so unrelentingly authentic and yourself that I didn't realize that under there was something else happening on occasion, that you'd have to appear tougher than you were because some of those things were hurting.
Oh, not even appearing tougher than you were. It's just dealing with stuff you've never dealt with. It's just like the first interception you get in the National Football League. You have to act like you've done this before. I've been here before. When you get in your first press conference, it's like, yeah, this isn't a big deal. You can't just sit there and be like, oh, I'm at a press conference in the NFL. You got to act like, hey, I'm cool. I got this. I've been here before. And that's something that it kind of comes with the territory and comes with good mentorship and people giving you advice, and you're like, okay, that's a fair way to do it. That's a fair way to see it. And then as you experience more, and as you're in those situations more, you develop an authenticity and an authentic way that you would deal with them. It's like, hey, I've been here. I really have been here before, so I know exactly. It's like the first time you go to the Super Bowl, and you're just like, but you can't be like that. You got to be like, this is nice. This is a Super Bowl. We come here. We expect to win this game. But you're really like, we had the Super Bowl and we playing Peyton Manning, but you can't be like that. You got to be like, hey, we had the Super Bowl. We're about to kick him in the teeth.
You seemed uncommonly well equipped through experience, life experience, and educational experience to retire from football and be equipped. But I don't believe that there is anyone who can be equipped for the grieving of your identity at young 30s. So what have been the parts of retirement for you that have been most challenging? Retirement from football.
Honestly, it hasn't been crazy, just because I was able to transition relatively quickly, into something that gave me routine and gave me, a structure. And I think that's the hardest part for most guys. It's like going from, I don't know, you play this game. Some guys from when you're 6 years old, and really from high school through when you retire from the league, what you're going to expect every year. Hey, at this part of the year, I'm in training camp. At this part of the year, I'm in season. This part, it should be playoffs. I'm training right now. I'm doing this. I might have time for vacations here. And so you're so used to structure, and then you get to college, and it's literally written on a paper. It's like, hey, we got weights at 6. We got this at 7. You got class at 10. You got this at 11. You got this at 2. And that's where guys get lost, because you get to the National Football League, and now you don't have class. You don't have study hall. You don't have training table and things like that. So now it's like, hey, meetings at 8. You got this at this time, this at this time. And you have that year round. You pretty much, unless obviously you got the off season, but when OTAs and stuff start, but what you're going to get, then you lose all that. And you're like, all right, well, what do I do right now? Like, where do I go from here? Where do I don't have a meeting. I don't have do I apply for a job? Do I, even if you have all the money in the world, it's like, hey, do I coach my son's team, or do I join a men's basketball league? I don't know what I do. And so that's the part where you get lost, because you've been so invested and so locked into this sport your entire life of making it to this spot. You made it to the top of the mountain. Now it's like, climb down and figure out what mountain you're going to climb again.
He's here with us on behalf of FCF, Fan-Controlled Football. It's emerging in fantasy sports and the interactivity of video games. If you want more information, download the FCF mobile application or visit fcf.io. You lose the discipline of football, and you do get something else, but it ain't football. It can't be football. You're basically talking about a military school environment, right? You're talking about almost, people don't understand, Richard. You're not going out there and being a great athlete and winning, and hooray, Richard didn't have to work at this. They don't understand the grind of what it is that you guys do. So, customers and media, what are some of the things we least understand about what you did for a living?
I think the discipline. I think the discipline is the part most people don't really understand. They don't understand the discipline that it takes to be at this level and consistently push through. It takes a lot to stay at it and stay disciplined, work out year round, keep your body in shape, train yourself. I was talking to my wife about this. It's about the days you don't feel like doing anything and you got to do it anyway. I don't feel like working out. I don't feel like training. I don't feel like studying. I don't feel like being an NFL player today. I want to be lazy. I want to be this. And you have to say no. You have to say that 1,000 times in your career. And that's the part that's the hardest for people to understand because they don't see that. And also dealing with injuries and overcoming injuries is the part that people don't understand. Like people are like, oh, ACL, man, he's out 6 months, man. We're not gonna have him to next year. And then he's out of sight, out of mind for most fans. But in reality, that guy goes through a ton mentally, just trying to figure out if he's ever going to be the same, if his body's going to be the same, fighting through pain and depression and doubt and atrophy in his muscles, and then just day by day working himself back in with the trainers and with the staff. And that's the part, you see the cool stories when guys come back and they're able to play like they played before, and then you don't hear about the guys coming back. And I think that's the part.
Depression and doubt, huh?
Oh yeah, when you talk about injuries, you ask anybody who's had a major injury that puts you out for at least a season. If they tell you they didn't have depression and doubt during that time, they're lying to you.
Because that's your money, right? I mean, that's your dreams, everything, and you're relying on a body that can betray you, and it's not like you ain't tough.
Right. It's out of your control. Like you can work as hard as you want. You can work from sun up to sundown, but your body has to respond in a way that you don't always have control of. I can do 1,000 reps, but if my body says, "Hey, I quit," like what am I going to do?
Your confidence was such so that there wasn't much that felt like it was out of your control. Correct.
Correct.
And
correct. That's the way you go.
Yeah. Well, especially at your position. And so when you invite, I don't know when you went from great to more famous or great to famous, uncomfortable famous, but you did the interview with Aaron Andrews. You were maximum excited. It felt to me that was the spot where Richard Sherman became, disposable football player who might be great behind a face mask to famous guy and everything that comes with it.
Right. I mean, that was definitely the moment that changed for me. And it was definitely the moment that I think I was prepared for at that point because of what I had went through the year before and the year before that, just kind of understanding the ups and downs of words and of fans and of media, the criticism, the praise. And that's why I wanted to stay around the game. I wanted to even once I'm done, I wanted to be an announcer. I wanted to be a commentator. I wanted to help with the FCF and own a team and be part of that league. Man, it's a fun league where guys are coming out of nowhere. These guys, we had Johnny Manziel and we had Josh Gordon, for a cup of coffee. T.O. played for a cup of coffee. But for the most part, it's guys that have kind of run out of opportunities. They run out of shots. And that's another thing people don't realize. There's only so many spots in the NFL. There's freaking 100 and whatever, 20 Division I colleges. There's probably 100 more Division FCF schools, and et cetera. And there's only 1,500 to 1,800 spots in the National Football League. And when you only have that many spots and you have that many guys, there are going to be guys, good players, guys that if they had an opportunity to play, that will likely shine in these leagues, but they're getting looked over because of, whatever circumstances. Sometimes it's just bad luck. And we're able to give a platform to those guys to go showcase their talent, to showcase their ability. And we've had guys get a shot to play in the National Football League, to get tryouts, and that's been really cool.
That was expertly done. I've got to salute you, sir. You've always been graceful in every way. You threw in that promo. I didn't even ask you about that, but you were going to get it in. I was going to get in all my other questions. You were going to get it in. I will ask you something else about what it is that you're promoting. What is the spot that you regard as your toughness being tested the most?
Probably coming back from my Achilles. Coming back from the Achilles injury. I think that was it being tested because I had to change the way I played. You can't make excuses. And like we just said, it is what it is. It's like, hey, I'm not getting as much power off my right foot as I was my entire life. But I still have to get these guys covered, and nobody's going to take any excuse that I give. So it was just mentally, physically, and willing myself to say, hey, it does not matter. Nobody cares. Nobody feels sorry for you. Get the job done. Find a way to get it done. And it was strenuous. It was tough. It was tough. And I found a way to get it done. I found a way to get back to the Pro Bowl, to get back to the All-Pro team, to get back to the Super Bowl. And I think that was one of the best feelings for me. My son got to see me play in the Super Bowl and got to see me play at a really high level.
Fill in the blank here for me on a couple of things before you get out of here. The one receiver I will grant you was a bit of a handful when I was playing was blank.
Megatron.
The guy who could, and I feared it, would run past me was blank.
Maybe D-Jack.
Yeah, he did that to everybody. Maybe D-Jack.
Yeah.
The guy who could go word for word with me on trash talk was blank.
There's a couple. Steve Smith Sr. probably, would go back word for word and go back at it and then get angry about it.
True or false, I was mildly afraid that it would get too bad with Steve Smith Sr. and it would end up in an actual fight.
No. That's a grown man still.
I know, but still, he is somebody who's feared. It's okay to fear. Okay, fill in the blank. A man somewhere in my sport that I did fear a little bit was blank.
Nah.
Not
on the football field.
Nobody.
Not humans.
Nobody. Okay, now a locker room, too. A little bit off, a little bit. You got to be careful. You just got to be careful.
There's a lot of crazy dudes in the National Football League, but I guarantee you there's not one of them that say they scared of somebody else. Not in that realm. If you're scared, you better get off that field.
The percentage of you from 1 to 100 that feeds the small petty and seeing Russell Wilson struggle a little bit in Denver is blank.
Probably like 10. I definitely don't want to see him hurt, and that was unfortunate to see him get hurt this week. It's not you. I really could care less about seeing somebody do bad. You want to see everybody do well, but it's more like you kind of understood what would happen in this scenario if they didn't give him help, if they didn't play to his strengths, if they didn't put him in a situation to be successful. This last game, he was actually playing like he normally plays. He's running, he's out of the pocket. He scrambled for the most yards I think he scrambled for the whole season, and then unfortunately they, had to play where he hit his head on the ground, and so hopefully he'll be able to bounce back from that.
I wasn't doing injury stuff. I was just doing struggling with play. I was not doing injury stuff. I don't think that you wish that kind of ill upon anybody.
It's fair.
The number of times a week Richard Sherman will think about how we should have not thrown the ball on the fucking goal line is blank.
Oh, 0 these days. I mean, you'd have caught me 4 years ago. It might have been a lot more, but no, not as much these days.
The reason that the Seattle dynasty broke up earlier than it should have been more than any other was blank.
Injuries.
True or false, the defense won that championship?
True.
Tell us again before you get out of here why it is that you love fan-controlled football, what it is that people are getting, the specifics of what they're getting with what it is that you're doing.
It's giving guys an opportunity, like I said, that have kind of run out of opportunities. It gives the fans a chance to play Madden and to have an impact on the game, have an impact on every play. The amount they watch, the amount they take part in the league gives them a lot more power. And I think it's just fun, man. I think everybody enjoys it. It allows it's just a fun environment. It's a fun environment when you're live and people are there. It's a fun environment when you're watching it on Twitch. and you're enjoying it. It's a fun environment when you're actually getting to call the plays and seeing guys execute the play you called and score a touchdown, man. I mean, it seems like the fans enjoy that. I haven't had the pleasure of getting my play called and seeing somebody score.
Richard, thank you for being on with us. Good catching up with you. People can catch you as well on Amazon, where you are breaking down the sport for us. Happy to see you, and happy to see that you're still doing stuff that comes with the discipline to keep you entertained in retirement, sir.
Sounds good. Thank you very much. I really appreciate you guys having me. It was a pleasure.